Good afternoon. My name is Gillian Balaban and I'm Senior Coordinator Governance Relations at GRI. Welcome to this meeting of the Global Sustainability Standards Board, known by its acronym, the GSSB, held on 16 May 2023. This virtual meeting is being hosted from Amsterdam, the Netherlands. Please note that all public GSSB meetings are being recorded, and you can find the audio recording on the GSSB webpage, along with high-level summaries of previous GSSB meetings. Present from the GRI Secretariat today are Bastien Buck, Chief of Standards, and Margherita Barbieri, Manager Standards. We will now start with a roll call. Anna Nefedova.
Hello, President.
Corley LaRue.
Present.
Chalandra De Silva.
Present.
Deborah Ing.
Present.
Galia Skonkova.
Present, no worries.
Sorry, terrible with names. Julia Genuardi.
Present.
Jennifer Prinsing.
Present.
Jeff Robertson.
Present.
Kim Schumacher.
Present.
Laura Dana Carter.
Present.
Peter Colley.
Present.
And GSSB Chair Carol Adams.
Present.
Thank you, everyone. GSSB member Ganga Charan Sharma will join shortly, and GSSB members Joseph Martin and Vincent Kong sent their apologies. I will now hand over to the Chair, Carol Adams, to open the meeting.
Thank you, Gillian, and welcome, everybody. We have two initial items to approve the draft summaries of the March meeting, which was under the previous chair with previous members, and the April meeting of the GSSB. So if I could start first of all with the summary for the March meeting. Can I ask whether anybody wants to raise anything with this summary of the March meeting? No, hearing no issues raised, seeing no hands. I'll ask if we can approve that summary of the March meeting, please. Okay, thank you. I'm seeing lots of nods, so we'll take that as approved. No objections raised. And if we could move to the draft summary of the April meeting. Does anybody have any issues they want to raise on this draft summary? None, and so I will take that draft summary then as approved also. Thank you very much, everybody. And I'll pass over to Bastien Buck now, Chief Standards Officer, to give us an update from the Standards Division. We can't hear you, Bastien.
Hello, apologies. I have some technical struggles today with the Zoom solution. I hope you can hear me loud and clearly now. I will try not to touch anything anymore and just roll through. Perfect. So from my side, a somewhat brief update today, as it is custom. I always would like to highlight the technical projects, the standard setting projects, and where we are. But before doing that, I wanted to speak briefly to a conversation that we had at the last board meeting, during which we have discussed a first staff draft of a text that could in the next months be considered the basis for changes in the GRI standards when it comes to describing the landscape, if you will, so the relation with crucial other standard setting developments in the sustainability reporting space, namely and importantly the work of the colleagues at the ISSB and the work of the colleagues under regulatory mandate at EFRAG to bring about the ESRS. We have continued our discussions with the colleagues both at the ISSB and EFRAG. Specifically, we've also had a chance to have a full day meeting with a representative from the ISB board, Richard Barker, to discuss our standard setting endeavors currently, but also the outlook that manifests in our draft work program, and importantly, the Box 1 text. And we will advance these discussions further in the next weeks as soon as we have a more substantiated position there, also in reflections that we can bring back to the standards board. We will do that. But I would want to say that in the bigger picture with both institutions, we're doing a lot on the staff level to support inputs into the technical discussions. On the ESRS front, and with EFRAG, we are focused on understanding better the linkage and interoperability of the still developing ESRS and the GRI standards. And we will continue to work very closely with the colleagues there to bring about an adequate representation of how interoperability can be explained to market participants. And that is something we will endeavor to provide technical assistance for. These are, of course, wider institutional discussions between GRI, the Foundation GRI, and the different players as well. Having said that, on the project specifically, we have a number of topic standards projects that are underway. For the biodiversity project, we are past the public exposure, as we've discussed last time. There are technical committee meetings underway, and now there are revisions of the draft ongoing. This is where conclusions drawn from the review of the public commons actually manifest in changes of the draft. And there are more meetings coming up in June, September, and October to discuss the revised draft. For the labor project, we have provided in-depth review of how this unfolds in multiple phases. Right now, we are invested in the draft development, which will still be ongoing till Q4. And then for the first approval moment for the GSB, we're eyeing the first quarter of 2024. And this will be focused on the remuneration, employment, and training education related contents. Next slide, please. I don't see the slides moving right now. Otherwise, I can.
It has moved, Bastian. We're now on.
Okay. Yeah. There was a bit of delay, probably. So
Yeah,
now
sorry.
we've moved even further. So for the climate change.
Yeah. Sorry. Climate.
For the climate change related project, we have an approval moment today for the third and final group of experts for the technical committee. And the technical committee meetings are ongoing so far in subgroups, and the group as a whole will come together as well to discuss the evolution of the draft. We've pooled significant resource from the standard setting team to support this project, because strategically it is important for us to provide the missing piece from an impact perspective in this important debate, and also reflect on how the developments around the work of the ISSB and the ESRS can potentially open up opportunities to align climate change disclosure where it overlaps even further. We aiming to right now for public exposure towards the end of the year with an approval moment in November. And the last project in this context on the topic level is economic impact. There we have had a discussion with you at the last meeting, and we're now moving to preparing a project proposal, and that will come up in the next meeting of the GSSB. Next slide, please. For the mining project, the next big milestone is after conclusion on the analysis of comments, we will bring the group together to have a discussion. We've successfully concluded the public consultation with 96 submissions, which is an excellent result. I think what we're seeing is continued interest and traction with key stakeholders for this project in particular, but also broadly speaking for our standard setting efforts. And there is a lot of very helpful commentary that we can draw on for the analysis. It is still the aim to move towards final approval in the November meeting, and we will keep you abreast of those discussions. For textiles and apparel, as well as for financial services on the next slide, we're currently in the assessment phase for the expert groups, for working group in the case of textiles and apparel, and for technical committees in the case of the financial service related projects. We hope to have the recommendation for textiles and apparel ready for the June meeting for the working group, and a first working group meeting in September. And if you move to the next slide, Joe, and we'll have the information on. It's very slow today on my end. I don't know whether, yes, there we are. So we expect to submit technical committee recommendation to the GSB starting in June, and likely we will also have a second batch of experts to be, or slate of experts to be approved in July. We are also, I think for both projects, looking at bringing on additional staff, which we have flagged earlier as a prerequisite for starting the actual project work in terms of draft development and consultation with the experts. I think I leave it at that. With the project related updates in relation to the sector standards projects, I should also say that we have extended invitations to both EFRAG and the ISB colleagues to join us, and we will reflect back on this with the working group and technical committee recommendations that we will bring to your next meeting. I think this is all I wanted to cover here during the update for today. Carol, was there anything in particular that I should be still alluding to, that I should be highlighting?
No, I'll see if anyone has questions in a moment, but Bastian, I wanted to thank you and Laura and the team for all that technical work you have done with EFRAG and the ESRS and the ISSB. I've seen it, commented on it, and it's been very good, detailed and important work, I think, in order to help work towards that interoperability that we're all keen to see. And thank you also for the day you spent with Richard Barker and Suzanne Drager at the ISSB. I was able to join for a while, and that was a good discussion. Thank you. And I think the 96 submissions to the mining sector standard consultation is excellent for a sector standard. So thank you, and to the team for all that work. Does any member of the GSSB have any questions or anything they would like to follow up with Bastian on? Okay, I'm seeing none, so we'll move on to Margarita giving an update on the topic standard project for climate change and the technical committee membership.
Yes, thank you. I hope everyone can hear me well. Please let me know if not. Good morning and good afternoon and good evening to everyone. So after the approval of the first and second group of nominations for the Climate Change Technical Committee that happened in March and April GSSB meeting, today I will present to you the third and final group of proposed members nominations for the technical committee for your approval. So if we can move you to the next slide. As you remember from the last GSSB meeting, we put extra emphasis on ensuring that regional representation within the technical committee were ensured, and I inform you that we were waiting for the formal nomination of the labor constituency representatives. So today I am presenting to you the final nominations for the Climate Change Technical Committee, which will include the labor representative and one organization from the African region that will bring the regional perspective in the technical committee discussion. I was also in connection with the Latin America organization, but unfortunately, the organization didn't accept the formal nomination to be part of the technical committee due to time capacity, as we discussed in the previous two meetings. But however, as we saw in the last GSSB meeting, I'm building a network of organizations that most of which will act as peer reviewers to make sure that different regional perspectives will be taken into account in the development of the climate change standard. So the technical committee for this project will be composed by 13 members if you do approve the final nominations presented today. As I explained in the previous meeting, we have chosen a programmatic approach for the development of the climate change standard, and this will lead us to address different subtopics within the scope of this project into subgroups, such as GHG emissions, energy consumption, transition plan, and beyond value chain mitigation. This subgroup will be run partially in parallel to ensure an integrated approach, and we will ensure an integrated approach among them. The expert of the technical committee will contribute to some of this subgroup discussion to develop recommendations on specific topics as part of the content development process. And technical committee members can second colleagues with specific experts to also take part of the subgroup discussion. Next slide, please. Thank you. The technical committee nominations that you approved in March and April included 4 mediating institutions, including 2 academic institutions, 2 investment institutions, 3 business enterprises which cover several industries from IT, energy, and chemical sector, and 2 civil society representatives with a thematic focus on human rights and just transition, and another with a thematic focus on environmental issue, with a global perspective, but also regional perspectives. And with the 2 final nominations that I'm presenting today to you, we will also have in the composition of the Climate Change Technical Committee 1 labor constituency representative and 1 additional civil society organization from Africa that will bring their regional perspective within the technical committee discussions. We are satisfied with the composition of the technical committee for the climate change project. I believe that we put together a very strong group of experts, and we believe that all constituencies are very well represented. As I mentioned last time, we also secured 3 GSSB sponsor for this project. So once again, I would really like to thank Anna Nefedova, Dalia Sonkova, and Joseph Martin for being volunteering to be a sponsor for this project. Next slide, please. Thank you. As we saw last time, since September last year, I've spoken and connected with many experts and organizations. We secure different organizations in our network, most of which will be happy to act as peer reviewers for this project. And among these organizations, there are several organizations from different regions, including Africa and Latin America, which will allow us to include different regional perspectives in the development of the project. I would say this is the update from my side, so I think I can pause here and leave the floor for any questions or comments before the approval of the nominations.
Thank you very much, Margarita. Does anybody have any questions or comments on these proposed members? Julia?
Yes, thank you. I would like only to say that I'm trying to convince NL to be part of the peer reviewer. But Margarita, I don't know if it's possible to have a call with you about that, but I hope that NL could be support also in terms of peer reviewer, if it's possible.
Yes, for sure. Thank you so much, Julia. That we'll be glad to have anyone involved for sure.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you. And any other comments? Okay.
Question from me. This is Anna. Margarita, just perhaps a reminder to see if RE100 could be a peer reviewer as well, as they focus on energy, and it would be great, I think, for many reporters to be able to align energy reporting.
Yes, thank you very much, Anna. So we discussed this with you previously, so we'll follow up with the connection with them to make sure to include them in the slide. Just to explain, the slide is not omnicomprehensive. There are other organizations that I didn't list here, but thank you, Anna. For sure, we'll follow up on that. The organization you see highlighted here is because I was trying to give an overview of one of the comments that were shared in the previous meeting for the regional representation to make sure that the climate science was involved in the network with viewers, but we'll follow up on that as well. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Margarita.
So thank you, Julia, Anna, and Margarita there. Any other comments? Okay, can we take these additional members then as approved? I'll take that as a yes, hearing no objections. Thank you all very much. And now if I pass on to Bastian for an update on how the work program is developing. Bastian, we can't hear you.
Bastian, you're still on mute.
Okay, I think we have lost Bastian. We're having some technical difficulties today. Is there anybody else from the standards team on the line who
Shall I start slowly, Carol, till Bastian is back and try to cover the slide? Yeah, and give you an update where we are.
Harold?
Yes, that's Harold.
Thank you, Harold. Please go ahead.
Yeah, so maybe go to the next slide. So where we are is with the GSSB work program. We've gone through almost all steps based on our research, based on internal consultation. We had a discussion with the GSSB, a thorough discussion with the GSSB, and also with you last in April, I have to say, sorry. In April on the public consultation period. So we had it out for public consultation, and based on the input from the discussion with you and also on the consultation and also on the inputs from other stakeholders internally and externally, we are finalizing now the work program before we send it for discussion and approval in the June meeting. And or maybe we need 2 meetings, but at least for the next meeting, we'll come up with a draft. Basically, we are, as you remember, in general, there was a thorough, people were pretty happy with the work program as it was, but there were some comments, several comments we had to take action on. So one of the comments is making a better connection to the mappings and to so the guidance documents. We have mentioned them now in our work program, and to see if we could include them somehow in our GSSB work program, so also under your responsibility. So you could think about the mappings, which was asked by several people, on a mapping comparing at the end of the climate standard, mapping between the new climate change standard and the ESRS versus ISSB standard. For biodiversity at the end of the year, having a mapping and or a guidance document explaining to reporters the difference between or the comparability, interoperability between the GRI, new GRI biodiversity standard and, for instance, TNFD and ESRS. So that's one part of these kind of, we call them now guidance documents. Another one is related to new initiatives. So like the international humanitarian law, which we got a lot of asks and questions on whether we could research, whether we could even research and discuss and give guidance on how this could be aligned with our standards, our universal standards and our labor standards and other social standards. And as that's like that, there is also of at least explaining that in our work program we have several of these initiatives in a lighter form, so as a guidance document. Actually, we talked tomorrow also with IHL people and with people from DCAF on discussing how we could start this in a lighter form, so as a research part and as a kind of guidance / mapping document. So this will be added or in a more mature form in the work program. Also, we strengthened a bit more the linkages with our related to interoperability, like with ESRS, like with IFRS, like with IASB, and all partners in the world, where we have to make sure that we are being as interoperable as possible, but preserving our own role and our own mission and vision, of course. In the prioritization of the work program, so as you remember, I think it's the next slide, let's see. Maybe in the preamble, so we made some additions, especially on this mission and vision, as I mentioned. So not only that, as a GSSB we provide high quality and up-to-date standards, but we do this with a purpose. So we do this to drive transparency and accountability about impacts on the economy, environment, and people, and including how these impacts are managed under governance oversight. So the text will probably be a little bit more amended, but this is just drafting. And mainly the last linear here is our purpose is really to promote activities that are consistent with transformation towards sustainable development in the interest of humanity, our shared environment. So basically there was very good input, and we strengthened that. So could we go to the next? I think there is the prioritization. No, then go back one. So as I said, so the building blocks for the work program are drafting, revising the existing standards. These building blocks didn't change. We have for the topic standards we have to revise. We said we will revise within the next 4 years the entire set of topic standards. We're at 31. We are well on their way, but that means that we will have to grow the team and to prioritize these revisions. This didn't change. That will not change in our final work program. We made a prioritization for the set of disclosures, you could say, around pollution. So think about the spills and leaks, which was still in there. We have the part, the disclosure, which will fall out of the greenhouse gas emission or the emission one, because that's disclosure 6 and 7. These are all related to kind of pollution. We wrote that also in the previous work program, a draft work program, but these will be included in a more severe way in the final text. So that's about pollution. The research on digitalization, which is of course a very broad one. We included it as starting research early next year, so in the schedule for 2024, simply because it's a very big one and we need a pretty big project to research it all and to find out which parts, which topics with disclosures in digitalization should be taken on board and how we will do that. And for the sector standard, we have, of course, our program, which we agreed upon as GSSB several years ago. In the prioritization, we made a small amendment simply due to resources. So the one of the projects is delayed a little bit to next year. That's the only, so it's basically the standard we want to start with. And that will be the major amendment we are finalizing now. When we finalize that, we will send it to you. In the meantime, our SEMP team, our editorial and publication team is finalizing also the text and the more look and feel of the document, so we can also publish it after your approval, after final discussion. We can also publish it in public. Yeah, I think this is the update of where we are. I'm not sure if Bastian is back and if he wants to add something.
Thank you, Harold. Bastian is still on mute, so I'm thinking he's not back. Oh, he's back. Did you want to add anything?
Back, and I was able to listen. I think yeah. No, I think, Eric, the one thing I wanted to say is that we can maybe return to the formulations around the preamble, in particular the ambition behind all the work that you do as the GSSB to have a brief on this. That was something we wanted to do.
Indeed. You're fading out a bit.
At this stage as well.
The sound is not very good. But yes, if anybody wants to comment on this preamble or anything else, they're very welcome to now. We have the opportunity. So are there any questions of Bastian and Harold, or any comments from GSSB members?
Yeah, Harold, sorry. Peter, go ahead. Sorry.
Is that Chalendra?
Yes, the Chalendra, but Peter, so your hand was up first. So Peter, please.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, Peter Colley here. I'm looking at the new preamble, and I have no particular problem with it. It's good. I just went looking for the last version of the preamble, and that was presented to the October meeting, in-person meeting of the GSSB. And it was basically about a page of text, including vision and strategy, and a fair bit of, or a moderate amount of landscape material. So, including the relations to the IFRS and EFRAG. So I'm just wondering about what's driving the change to the briefer preamble that no longer referencing the landscape issues.
So it does actually, it is longer. This is just the first part of it. And the change is that it doesn't stop at the purpose being about accountability, about impacts. It goes to a bigger purpose about promoting activities that are consistent with a transformation towards sustainable development.
So Peter, basically the question, this final, so this last, the third paragraph, do you think this adds value? That's the question, or would you like to have other additions or deletions? Because the rest of the preamble, the same building blocks, so with the cooperation with others are still in there, but it's longer. So it's still longer in the final text, but yeah. So the third paragraph is new. So it's in addition to only the technical aspects of accountability, as Carol just said. And that's basically that was also Bastian his question now. Is that satisfying for everybody, or do you prefer other kind of wording?
Harold, just on the second para, do we need to probably bring in something to do with the supply chain? Because I think at the March meeting we discussed how EFRAG has a lot of supply chain elements into that. So whether we need to talk about the supply chain or bring focus on that.
Yes, if it's a question to me, but I'm not. I would say this is at a higher level because, of course, in our universal standards and in our system, our impacts on the economy, environment, and people. This includes the entire value chain. So indeed, also the supply chain. In our projects, for sure, we put a lot more emphasis on supply chain issues. So to do that, I would agree. But in your really the starting point from our communication to the outer world in the 3 first paragraphs, I would say this goes too deep, but it's more my first thought on this. So maybe go to your colleagues to listen.
So picking up Harold's question, are there any comments on the last paragraph there, the last sentence in particular? Okay, so we can take it, I think, and hope that everybody is then happy with that last sentence added there as an additional purpose for the GSSB's work program.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And actually, of course, I think it is our mission and our purposes. So, but it's good to emphasize and to put it in there. So that's because it's basically where GRI was that's why we were born, I think 25 years ago. So it's but
Great.
don't always remember to give the good message there. So thank you, Carol.
All right, thank you. Well, thank you very much, everybody, and thank you very much to the standards team who have presented and done the work in the background, preparing for this meeting and the ongoing work. And with that, I'd like to ask if there's any other business. No, I don't see any hands. Okay, thank you. So I'll call the public meeting to a close. Thank you all.